In a post-Harvey Weinstein world, those who love to analyze and consume film find themselves asking, should we separate the art from the artist? It's been a conversation much older than the Me Too movement, ranging from the discussion of filmmakers like Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, and Mel Gibson. But movies like Annie Hall and Rosemary's Baby are still hailed by critics as some of the greatest films of all time, seen as outstanding feats of filmmaking by separating the film from how they perceive the man who created it. But one concept in film theory and criticism seems to negate that, the auteur theory. I won't give a full and complete background on the auteur theory, but at its simplest, it's this.
Oui, la politique des auteurs, c'était l'idée que les films n'étaient pas des... que bien sûr, les films se font en équipe, mais que où quelqu'un a quelque chose à dire, où quelqu'un a des idées sur la vie et sur le cinéma et sur le monde. Et alors tout ce qu'il fait est intéressant, même si un tel film est un peu moins bien que celui d'avant, ou bien c'est quelqu'un qui fait son travail de façon anonyme et ce n'est pas intéressant. C'était ça la politique des auteurs. C'était né d'une phrase de Giraudoux qui disait « Il n'y a pas de pièce de théâtre, il n'y a que des auteurs ».
The director's personal creative vision is the predominant force in shaping the artistry of a film. The most popular and recognizable modern auteurs are easily identifiable through style and form. It applies to so many filmmakers it's impossible to list. But if you go into a movie already predicting the outcome based on the director alone, they're probably an auteur. A director's work is an extent of his personality and is a struggle between content and the author's personality. You might say, I don't see an ounce of pedophilia in a film like Roman Polanski's Carnage. And I'd agree with you. This isn't applicable to every film an auteur has ever made. Sometimes what a person does, or their personal opinions, don't show on the screen profoundly enough to make a difference. Like Truffaut says, film is a collaborative effort, and we know how many hands a film goes through before an audience ever even sees it, known sadly by directors like Orson Welles, and Orson Welles. But in cases like Victor Salva's Jeepers Creepers, we have to use a bit of awareness into analyzing films that show a clear representation of a director's personal actions and opinions. Before I get into Jeepers Creepers, let's talk about its director. Victor Salva, director of films like Disney's Powder and all 3 Jeepers Creepers films, is a registered sex offender. He was convicted of lewd or lascivious acts upon a child, using a child under 14 in pornography and oral copulation. He served 15 months of a 3-year sentence, while directors like Francis Ford Coppola vouched and even produced his films after his short sentence. Since this is relatively unknown compared to someone like Woody Allen, millions of people have unsuspectingly separated the art from the artist. But now being completely aware, do we see Jeepers Creepers in a different light? Does this change character motivations, cinematic intentions, and thematic concepts within the film? We'll start with the premise. A monster hunts and kills to stay alive, the organs he eats replacing the ones he damages or loses. But those of us who have seen Jeepers Creepers know it's nowhere as clinical and impersonal as it sounds. The creature thrives off of this, genuinely reveling in the dismemberment and bloodshed of those he eats. He does it in a dramatic fashion, ravishing into his victims and leaving them in disembodied forms. But how he treats his victims based on their gender is the most interesting part of the film. The women he murders are not killed out of passion, but out of necessity. He hastily kills a female officer just to get to her male partner, who he lasciviously decapitates in French kisses, eventually cannibalizing his tongue.
Go. Go, 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 go! Go, 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 go! Go, 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 go!
The creature's relationship with the main character Derry is arguably the most uncomfortable aspect, who he hunts because of his obsession with the scent of Derry's dyed pink underwear. Derry can be analyzed as gay-coded, Justin Long playing a young college student with a navel tattoo of a rose and the aforementioned underwear. Seeing his portrayal in the film as an almost scream king, sexualized and tortured, is he a surrogate or ideal victim for Salva? Or is Derry a mirror of Salva's young closeted self? The first victim of a creeper is a young man, kept alive and stitched up underneath an old, decrepit church. One scene takes place in a jail, where the creature salivates and devours strong and arguably handsome prisoners without being stopped. But for each person the creeper murders, his entire objective is in search of his one perfect meal, poor innocent teenage Derry. The creature's hunting and killing of young men in the film is a predatory and clearly sexual one, and a most flagrant display from Salva of his own crimes. Does he see himself as the creeper? Or can Salva be both the creeper and Derry? Is this movie a mea culpa? Does Salva realize the creeper fixates on more men than women, or was that unconscious? As a film by a gay director, Jeepers Creepers works as a campy, psychosexual cult film, and as a film by a pedophile, it becomes something much more sinister. So at the end of the film, it's worth getting the full perspective from not separating the art from the artist. Especially in this case, it adds context and extra meaning to know the auteur, since he is the one whose vision shapes the film. Jeepers Creepers is an example of how the art and the artist sometimes shouldn't be separated, and instead should be considered and analyzed together in order to adhere to the concept of the auteur theory.